For another weekly edition of the Adam Cohen Coach's Corner. Coach, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, again, one weekend of the regular season in the books here. You had a 6-team classic here at Just Outfield this past weekend, taking on Mercy and Bridgeport. The opener on Friday night against Mercy ended up being a 3-0 loss. If you could just start off, give us your assessment of the team's play in the season opener.
Well, first of all, there was a big event for us. We hosted, including us, there were six institutions on campus here. So first and foremost, I got to thank the administration, Jay Moran, and his support. Your staff here, you and Sam and your entire staff did a great job. Joe Hines, tireless, to be able to accommodate 6 institutions like that, just a tremendous job. The coaching staff, Katie Didio, Chris Legates, Bob DeCranian, Danny Almeida, our trainers were busy all weekend. You know, there's a lot of things that go into hosting an event like that, and there's a lot of people that have to kick it into high gear. So they did a great job. In terms of the event and the performance on the field, you know, when we look at the entire weekend as a whole, I was looking at the stats over the weekend, yesterday and today. Our group was resilient. We have a good group, and they're resilient. And when I was looking at the stats, I noticed that from the first half to the second half, if you take and you combine both of the games together, the number of corner kicks for us in the second half doubled or tripled. The number of shots that we had quadrupled in the second half, and that led to us scoring 2 times more goals in the second half as compared to the first half. Yeah. So if one thing that we take away from the weekend and from our group is the fact that they worked their tail off, they took information at halftime and implemented it into the game into the second half. So it's one thing for us to give them information, but it's another thing to have intelligent, hard-working student athletes that can take the information and then implement it into the games. And they were able to do that. So I give the players full credit, and it really makes me very, very optimistic moving forward.
And certainly I will be one to admit my mistakes. I misspoke. Obviously, Caroline Stodel with the late goal. It was 3-1 on Friday night. And you can actually check out that video highlight on our YouTube page of Caroline's goal against Mercy. On Sunday, a Bridgeport team, 4th in the country, and you hung right with them, ended up 1 goal short. Again, pretty good measuring stick here with both teams to start the year. But give us your impression of the effort against Bridgeport.
Yeah, and by the way, we do game day captains. So, in our first match, we had 2 game day captains. Hannah Bodner is our team captain for the year. But then on game day, we have Caroline Stodel and Erica Rodella were the game day captains in the first game. They represented the team extremely well. And then, as you mentioned, going into Bridgeport, Deanna Ryan was our game day captain. And listen, Bridgeport and Mercy are both quality teams, and we hold ourselves to high standards. So full credit to them, but we tend to focus more on what we're doing. And like I said, we did some things well at the beginning of the game. We have to decrease the number of errors that we make and maximize the things that we do well. But I just was very, very impressed with the fact that in both matches, our kids, there was no sign of quitting, and I really took a lot away from the fact that our kids were extremely competitive all the way through the end of the match and got better and better over time.
You played a lot of your freshmen in this opening weekend. I kind of made the joke over the walkie-talkie the other night. You almost had a line change effect, subbing as many as 6, 7, 8 in the game at one time. But with that said, you were able to get a lot of them right into the mix for their first quote-unquote varsity action after the preseason. What were your thoughts on the freshmen and how they were able to adjust and acclimate in the opening weekend?
You picked up on some great points there, Mike. I tell you, our philosophy in terms of sub patterns and how many you sub and all that, typically we're going to only sub 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 players in a match, but we do feel like we're deeper. First of all, second of all, we're in a stretch right now where we have 4 games in 8 days. That's way too many for soccer players, and then you look at it more holistically for the entire season. and you want to keep people healthy. So the combination of we do think we're deeper. We do think our freshman class is quality. They certainly have a long way to go in terms of their development, but we're pleased with the number of people that we feel like can impact the game. So when you look at the entire picture, yeah, there may be times when we do feel like we can put more players into the match. And I think that, I think you mentioned the word experience. For them to get in competitive college games early on, their head might be spinning a little bit at the beginning, but I think big picture it's going to help us and it's going to help them.
Now, the other 5 teams that were here this past weekend, you will all play at some point in the season.
Mm.
One of those teams coming up on Wednesday with LIU Post. Again, they were here at Jestow this past weekend for a couple games.
Right.
As we talked about last week, they're certainly always one of the top teams in the ECC. Give us your take on LIU Post off your observations in the opening weekend, and what do you expect in that match? Yeah,
those teams that came in from the ECC this weekend, Mercy, Bridgeport, and LIU Post, those are top teams, and they're picked to finish 1, 2, and 3 in their conference this year. And you mentioned Bridgeport's number 4 in the country. LIU Post this week is going to be very difficult matchup. We play at their field. It's our first road game of the season on a big, large grass field, and from watching them this weekend, they're opportunistic, they're athletic, they compete, they battle for everything, and they have 3 or 4 or 5 three forwards at a time, but they have a rotation of forwards that are competitive. They're opportunistic, Mike. So they get chances and they finish them. So they're going to be a real tough matchup. It's going to be a challenge for us. You'll close the week with Assumption. Again, it will close that hectic stretch here to start the year. Conference opener. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you want to get off on the league slate on the right foot, and I'm sure you're focused also on LIU Post first. But with that said, past observations, maybe any film you've seen so far, what do you expect to see out of Assumption on Saturday? Specifically about Assumption, I can't say too much at this point. We just came off 2 games in 3 days, and now we have a quick turnaround to LIU Post. I have not looked at Assumption specifically, but what I can tell you is that that's our first conference game, and I can tell you Assumption is going to be good just because I can see what they've done over the past years, and it'll be a typical Northeast 10 matchup where we know that they're going to be good. We'll be ready, and we'll see how that first game goes. But we got to deal with business on Wednesday, tomorrow first. Well, Coach, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for the kind words for everybody at the beginning. I'd just like to give a special shout out to, as Coach mentioned, Samantha Maceda, Bobby Martinez, Tyler Costello, Garrett Barros, DeAsia Martinez, Ryan Paglia, Jeff Yasovic. I think I'm including everybody in there, but certainly everybody who helped behind the scenes with our staff. Really appreciate their efforts. Coach, it was fun. We'll do that again in 2022. And we'll speak to you next week, hopefully with two wins under your belt. You got it. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week for episode 3 of Adam Cohen's Coach's Corner.